Yeah, the mic wasn't working. Okay, now it's working. Okay, good. We got that going. I think I may have mistakenly touched the power button that turned off the stove off. Okay, here we go. Let me check on the sound quality so that it won't be picking up background noise. Okay. So before others start coming in now, yeah, let's go with what we have at hand because the show about to start. Yeah, the title for tonight is about middle class. Middle class, middle class, middle class. Okay, this is what it is, right? No society can thrive without middle class. Middle class is the backbone of any society. United States, the fact that United States can collect a huge amount of tax in order to finance its economy to the tune of almost $4 trillion is because of middle class. Yes, there are other high earners like people making $450,000 and above. They contribute a lot to the system through tax purposes, but individual tax they don't really contribute that much because most of them claim the amount of middle class in their tax filing. Like some of them will claim, like Jeff Bezos claims about 100 and something thousand. Some of them claim almost close to nothing. So when they file income tax and also use charitable tax deduction, they end up paying maybe as low as $750 in whole tax. That's for their effective tax rate, just like in someone like what's his name, former President Donald Trump can claim almost zero because of real estate tax, and also things that are called effective. That's the name effective tax rate. So with effective tax rate, they can pay maximum of tax or highest amount of tax throughout the whole year. But then when they file their income tax, they get a whole lot of refund. Or sometimes they don't really file taxes. They don't really pay any tax. But at the end of the year, when they file their tax, they almost paid nothing. The reason why it's called effective tax rate. But beside effective tax rate, when individuals file taxes, when middle class file taxes, due to the fact that they earn W-2 and depend on the maximum amount of dependent that they can claim, it goes against the middle class. That is why if you look at the number of middle class in the system, in the tax pool system, is a whole lot of middle class people that are in the tax pool system. So this middle class demography, both low middle class, and then upper middle class, they tend to pay a huge amount of money. So when we define middle class, some people don't understand that somebody earning $400,000 a year is an upper middle class. It's not really it's not a millionaire. It's not even in the 1%. It's somebody earning $400,000 is just a percentage. That's 0.1% below the 1%. So that person does not qualify. That household, does not qualify. I'm talking about household income. Does not qualify a middle. That's an upper class. They are upper middle class. So upper middle class, starts in different ranges, depend on the state where you live. If you were to live in Dallas, middle class is $75,000 at today's rate. That's middle class. Then low middle class starts at $35,000 up until $70,000, which is $74,000. That's where low middle class ends. Then from $75,000 up until $125,000 is what is considered today's inflation rate of middle class. Then from $125,000 and above up until $400,000, up until $250,000 in Dallas is considered upper middle class. $250,000 is considered upper middle class in Dallas. But then, inflation adjusted, it can put it as high as $350,000 in Dallas. That is not nationwide. So Dallas, which is, I would say Dallas, Houston, and Austin have that wiggle room of $100,000, which means between $250,000 to $350,000 wiggle room in Dallas, where upper middle class can actually have kind of a advantage compared to a middle class in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and New York. When you look at the middle class individuals in New York, San Francisco, and Los Angeles, they have to be at $450,000 to then qualify for 1 percentile. So usually when the United States labor statistics averages middle class, they use those places as their benchmark because that is where the bulk of tax that the United States use in qualifying certain demographic come from. Those three cities, and you can also add Chicago to it. So I would say those 4 cities are 4 most expensive cities in the United States: San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, and Chicago. Those are the 4 most expensive cities that have huge sizable amount of population to be able to just to maximize the tax profit, or maybe the tax pool that United States government will draw in order to finance activities. And those cities also have a sizable amount of state taxes apart from federal taxes that are applied. So when you come to Texas, Texas does not have federal income and does not have state income tax. Texas does have federal income tax. But this is where the federal income tax bites in Texas. Federal income tax in Texas is about 7 point something. I think it's 7.9% or 7.25%, somewhere around there, to as high as about 9% is the tax rate, federal tax rate in Texas. It also fluctuates based on income, but effective tax in Texas is about 6.25%. That is the effective tax rate in Texas. But the reason why Texas effective tax rate is like that is because Texas have a high income tax compared to California that sits at a lower effective tax rate. Due to the fact that California does have a federal and state income tax, what happened is that when you move from Texas, like some people would tell me, Alex, why should I choose to stay in California over Texas? I said to them that if you look at it based on yearly justification of expense, you see that your Your expense in a year between Texas and California is about $5,000 difference. And the reason why it's $5,000 difference is this. When you live in California, you pay federal income tax, you pay state income tax, you pay property tax if you have a property. But let's use those three property just that's tax assessments. So when you have your federal tax is evenly the same throughout the whole country. But we have the giver state and the taker state, which means the blue states are mostly the giver state and the red states are mostly the taker states. But if you come to a place like California, California tax rate is the same across the board in federal with other states. But then California has what we call state tax, just like the state of Maryland has state tax. Chicago, Illinois has state tax. Place like Seattle, Washington have state tax. And all these states also have, all the cities in those states have city tax, and then the accounting tax, which is property tax. They all have it. But the thing is that when you come into property, but the thing is this, all these states, state tax are not the same. But do remember that Texas does not have state tax. But okay, when you go down to the county tax, that is called property tax. The state of Texas has a very, very high property tax. California property tax sits about 0.915 is the California property tax, whereas Texas is about 1.925. You see, that's the average tax in property tax in Texas. So Texas property tax is more than twice that of California. But this is where some people find it difficult, because one thing that I've come to notice is that most people do not do their mathematical calculation when it comes to tax purposes, or maybe moving from one state to another. Most people don't justify, they don't use financial justification of their moving purpose. Because if you look at it this way, if your property tax in Texas is, if your property in Texas is $500,000, right? And the other individual lives in California, and they have a $1 million house, and you live in a $500,000 house in Dallas. $500,000 house, 3,000 square foot. It's just mind-boggling the way I'm saying this, because I do remember that a few years ago, just 10 years ago or less, this is something else. About 9 years ago, $500,000 will buy you almost 6,000 square foot mansion in Frisco. But today, it's double the price. Actually, it's heading to triple the price in Frisco. Just see what 10 years can do. What inflation can do in 10 years. Cost of living can do in 10 years. The upward price in purchasing of real estate in Texas actually trump over it took effect over 3 presidents: Obama, Trump, and now Biden. So 3 presidents, the property rate in Texas increased over 3 presidents. So this is not just that, it's not that it came down during the Republican system or presidency. No, it actually progressed during 3 presidents. So sometimes I can't even believe how we went through 3 presidents with huge increase in property value. But going back to what I was saying, So the when you live in Texas, your $500,000 house is the same as somebody living in California at a 3,000 square foot house. 3,000 square foot in Dallas for $500,000. 3,000 square foot in Los Angeles. I'm not talking about a high end area in Los Angeles. Just like in Texas, a 3,000 square foot house will cost you about 1 point something million in Highland Park. A 3,000 square foot in Los Angeles, in an upper area in Los Angeles, let's say Beverly Hills or let's say Bel Air, will cost you about 2 point something million. It will cost you about 2 point something million in a 8,000 square foot lot. 3,000 square foot house, 8,000 square foot lot. In Los Angeles will cost you about 2.5 million. In Dallas, in Highland Park, will cost you about 1.2 million. If you go to Frisco, it's going to cost you about 600,000. If you go somewhere in Grand Prairie, South Grand Prairie, it will cost you about $500,000. But the thing is this: what I'm trying to say is that a $1 million house in a $500,000 house in Texas, the property tax is 1.925%. If you go to Los Angeles, the same house will cost you $1 million, but the property tax is 0.9125. You see the difference now? Texas is more than twice, right? Which means, in terms of physical value, that's face value of the tax amount, that's the tax amount in dollar cents in the greenback, is the same thing for a $1 million house in California versus a $500,000 house in Texas. You're paying the same amount physical. So if it's $10,000 a month in California, it's $10,000 a month in Texas. But the price in terms of real estate value is higher in California. Look at it this way. When you buy a house in California, your house in California will appreciate faster than your house in Texas, in Dallas, because Dallas real estate doesn't appreciate as fast, anywhere near as fast as California real estate. California real estate is the first to tank in the country and is the first to appreciate in the country. So if you want to watch out how real estate is doing, don't ever use Dallas as a comparison, because you will be lost and pissed off that, whoa, when are the houses going down? They're not going to really go down that much. Because Texas is a city, in Dallas is the city in the middle of the country. Cities in the middle of the country don't really have real estate appreciation or depreciation. But the cities at the edge of the country, by the ocean side, just like when you have something at a Calipo, right? Catalipo. The balance of anything, let's say this thing right now, when you put this right here, if you sit right here, there is no effect to this surface. It doesn't tilt. It will not tilt because you are at a support system. You are the middle of the support. You are actually on top of the support system. It will not tilt. But whenever you come to the edge, here it will not really tilt because you're still in the middle, just like Chicago. The real estate in Chicago don't really go up that fast, neither goes down that fast because of this. In Dallas, which is almost the middle of the country, it doesn't really move that much. It doesn't really go up that much. It doesn't really go down that much. But look at San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Oregon, Seattle, New York, Washington, D.C., Maryland, those areas will have the effect of the tilt, of real estate tilt. You see? So they're going to tilt really quick here, and they're going to move up. When the balance comes up, you feel the effect of the balance. When it tilts, you feel the effect of the tilt. That is just how real estate is at the very end of, that's on the ocean front of the country. All the cities by the ocean have appreciation real estate, fast appreciation real estate, fast depreciation real estate, except Houston. Because Houston is not actually sitting on a clean water. Houston waters are murky. So they don't really have ocean life. So due to the effect of hurricane, Texas refused to put money on Galveston in order to make Galveston I would say a hurricane-proof city. Just like in Florida, they don't care when hurricane comes. They're still building millions of, I don't even know what is wrong with those people. They build millions and millions of dollars of real estate property. Even though they get whacked every year, they get trounced every year by hurricanes, they still keep building it. Texas is not making that kind of foolish investment in Texas coast. That's on the Texas coast. They stay away from that. So that is why you see city like Houston doesn't have real estate appreciation, even though it's an ocean property or beach or front property. It doesn't have that kind of wow effect that Los Angeles, New York will have in terms of beachfront properties. So what I'm trying to say is this. So that is the thing whereby the reason why you have all these the reason why you have places like that appreciating, depreciating, is because the middle class in those areas are enormous. California has a very strong middle class. So when you look at California, the people that are running away from California, yes, some middle class are living there, but they're living because their jobs are living. Their jobs are moving to Texas. The rich are moving to Texas because they are being swapped with taxes in California. So what I usually tell people that want to move, so when I tell them about this real estate thing, I say, okay, but when you move to Texas, if you're middle class and you want to move to Texas, you also have to totally or completely look at the justification of your moving. Because if you were to move to Texas and see how things are going in Texas in terms of moving your job, do understand that when you move your job to Texas, you will take a pay cut. So the pay rise, the pay difference between California and Texas is actually you paying for your state tax in Texas. In California, I'm sorry. Because you're not getting taxed in Texas, your job is taking that money back. Because the reason why they're giving you pay rise in California is for you to be able to pay your taxes in California. That pay gap is not for you to put in your pocket. Yeah, but you still will be able to file for state income tax, state W-2 in California, which you can't do in Texas. So if there is any pre-tax that you paid already, like property tax and stuff before the end of the year, before your income tax filing, you're not going to get those money back. So all the property tax you paid, you're not going to get a penny back. But in California, you can get up to $10,000 back. That's why it doesn't favor the rich. But it favors the middle class, because the middle class can get up to $10,000 back, the rich can get up to $10,000 back, and they want millions back. They don't want no $10,000 back. So that is why they will leave California and move to Texas. So I do tell middle class people, watch out for this, because when you move to Texas, you're going to be like, whoa, I'm not getting the same amount of check anymore. Yes, you're not, because you're not paying state income taxes. But in California, you are paying state income tax. So you can move from Texas to California and your pay is cut by almost $30,000. And you're like, whoa, my annual paycheck went down by up to 30,000. What happened here? Because tax. All that tax you're supposed to pay in California, you're not paying them. So they're taking that money back from you. So that's one thing about that's why middle class is the backbone of any society. California will do anything to please its middle class, because middle class builds the economy. They get those tax systems from middle class and it builds the economy. United States would do anything for the middle class, because I gotta tell you, when you go to department stores, you go to various stores in the malls, you look at furniture, you look at retail stores, you visit a wide array of places in the United States, you find out that most houses sold every year, most luxury goods sold every year, most electronics sold every year, most appliances sold every year are actually purchased in large amount, up to 80% by middle class. Due to the fact that middle class spend money in this country, due to the fact that middle class own most of the debt in this country, is the reason why the country financial system will keep growing in every sphere, because the middle class spend their money. So the government will give the middle class the money to spend, because once it's spent, what it does, it excites the economy. It excites, and then it sparks development. More houses are built today. Real estate houses are built not for the rich, because the rich, most of them build their own house for themselves. They don't really, they don't take out mortgage. They don't really take out interest rate. Usually, most of whatever they want to buy is paid for out of pocket. It's of no advantage for the banks, neither for the government, because interest rates are not being generated. So once the rich pay it out of pocket, the interest rate is zero. And not only do they pay out of pocket to make interest rate zero, the bank is not even making any money off of it. They're not making money off of it. So middle class is the backbone of the economy. That's why I say that the middle class is the backbone of any economy. Let's assume right now you go to a place like Nigeria. Nigeria is a country that, due to the stupidity of the politicians, they don't understand the strength of middle class. They don't, most of the politicians, because due to the fact that they are psychopaths, they, and narcissists, they only feed from themselves. They don't understand that no economy, number one, no economy can grow without a solid middle class. Your middle class has to have at least 80, it has to be paying 80% of the tax. Your middle class has to spend about 60% of the money. The middle class has to spend about 60% of the money. Not less than 60%. Not less than, at least 60%. They have to spend at least 60% into the economy, because if they don't spend that money, you cannot have a spare job, you cannot create jobs, you cannot expand the economy, you cannot build roads and bridges. Automobiles cannot be able to be sold in the system, because middle class love to live like the Johnsons. They have to spend their money. They spend money in various ways, especially today's middle class. Middle class of 50 years ago, they saved a lot of money. Middle class of today believe that middle class of 50 years ago are stupid and foolish, and they didn't allow the family to live good. They just, they say a lot of crazy things. But today's middle class and 50 years ago's middle class are not the same. They're not the same at all. Not the same, because I got to tell you, when I see how my that's the people that I knew 50 years ago. I say I'm not even 50. 30 years ago or about 40 years ago, how my parents them, did with us. Most people in that era didn't really have cars. Even though they have the money to buy, they didn't really have it. There are so many things that they had the money to buy, but they didn't buy. Is because then middle class justify their expense. But today, middle class justify their living. Two different things. Middle class of them justify their expense. Today's middle class justify their living. Two different things. So, I am glad to have put out this little tape today. So I wish that people will watch it and get some nice feel about middle class, and that will help because I'm not going to go really far deep into today's discussion, but I'm just releasing this video clip right now so that people can understand what it takes to be middle class, how the middle class helps the economy. But at the same time, I'll be discussing more about the upper middle class or the rich. Then I'll be discussing more about job creation, discussing more about people understanding that not everybody should be an entrepreneur. Not everybody should create a job. And when you find out you can't create one or you don't have the knowledge of what it takes to have one, don't call yourself a failure. You can fold, but what you can do basically is that you can actually invest in somebody else. Invest in a company. Invest in somebody else and work with somebody else in order to be able to have stream of income coming from somewhere. You see what I'm saying? Excuse me, guys. Just give me a second. Yeah, thank you. I'm back. So that's the thing about it. When you can't finance it, when you can't run a business, don't think you're a failure. No, you're not. Everybody is not created to be business owner. Some people can do it. Very few people can do it. But a lot of people can invest in those people. Whereby instead of you putting in 100% of the effort and failing, you can create certain percentage of the wealth of the investment resource and then reap certain percentage of the profit. And you don't really have to do that much job. But because of your financial investment, you get sizable amount of return or profit yield for the rest of the life of the company. Depend on how you and the other individual or individuals agree to the term of return. But if in some cases you go and start a business by yourself and you know you don't have any experience in it, it will bite you. Like I do tell people every day, every time, learn a business. If you can learn it, hire somebody that knows it and then work with that individual. Work with the individual, know how they did it, or then let them help you to start your company, work under them, put them at the head, pay them, or give them a very low percentage of the company that will make them feel comfortable to release all their knowledge to you. Don't let your ego take place. Because I gotta tell you, if you are a business person, you will not have that much of an ego. But when you're not a business person, you don't see the bigger picture. Your ego kicks in and you make terrible mistakes. Please learn from the ones that have been there. That is the justification of your financial investment, by being wise with it. So, I'll be talking more about middle class, the backbone of any economy, in the next section. But I'm going to come to an end at this section, and we will talk more tomorrow. Thank you guys for listening, and I think there was supposed to be some panels tonight, but everybody's busy. So I think the next time we're going to have panels come up, and then we'll talk more. Thank you so much, and you guys have a good night. Bye-bye.